Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. So, the GTX 260 OC challenge is closed. We're done. The competition has now ended, and it has been running for a while. I'm not entirely sure when it started. I think September last year or something like that. It wasn't officially on HWBot then. I think that was around December, but it's been running for a while. And yeah, so we're gonna be going over the final results today. Now, I was unfortunately not able to do one final video on it. I was planning to make a video like I did for air and water cooling for Sub-Zero as well. Problem is, my Lang DDC Alpha Cool pump has decided to completely die. Something on the PCB inside of it is broken. I did try my best, but one of the ACs is just broken, so can't repair that. Anyway, so it didn't happen because I technically have like an Intel-compatible AIO cooler, but the pump on that one only works sometimes and doesn't always run. Which, yeah, it's not gonna be enough to run 5.3 gigahertz on my 8700K, so I was just like, you know what, I think I'm fine. Little did I know that I was about to tumble down the ranking. As it turns out, the last couple days have been rather heavy for new scores getting uploaded to the rankings, which led to me losing first place on air, losing third place for water, and going from second to fourth place for Sub-Zero. So sadly, I was not as dominant as I was hoping to be in my own competition, but, well, at least people did compete, and a lot of people did compete, especially for the air stage. We have 37 people that have scores for the air stage, a little bit less than that for water cooling. Sub-Zero, of course, because, you know, the competition was sort of meant to be beginner-friendly, and, well, beginners really only have air coolers. But anyway, so I just want to give a huge thanks to everyone who just participated. Like, if you're in this list, big thanks to you. It's been great talking to people on the HWBot Discord about it. It's been great also seeing people in the comments being enthusiastic about this. And yeah, like, I mean, this is the first time that I've been involved with running a overclocking competition on HWBot, and it's been cool. I don't know if I'm ever gonna do one again. I already know that there's gonna be a cheap-ass chips later this year. And I've heard Tech Tested is potentially looking into making another CPU competition, which I might actually have the budget to compete in this time. So there will be more competitions. But for now, you know, we're going to talk about this one. So yeah, what I think I want to do here is just give proper credit to all the victors. Beginning with, for the air stage, of course, our old friend, ASIC, who beat me, for first place. I was hoping I was gonna get first place on air, because I had a really good run, but ASIC came in and just destroyed me, because he gets a better score than me with less clocks. I was at 846 or 849, I think 1458 for the memory on air, and then like 1870 on the shader. So like across the board, I had higher clocks, but this man has somehow managed to outperform me. Probably, like, it must have been OS efficiency. I already had a very efficient OS, but it looks like he has just completely won. I'm not sure if he's using the same ISO as I did. We did share some ISOs between each other to like kind of look at which one performs the best. One of all the ones I tested, I used the one that will perform the best. He's also on the same driver as me, I think. So maybe he knows a secret trick that I don't. Or maybe he just had a really, really, really lucky run. Well, it's not his CPU or memory, that's where the score is for sure. But yeah, like, very nice score. Here's a setup. Maybe, I don't know. Like, that heatsink looks really nice. That's at least as good as my heatsink. I took an Accelero heatsink and changed it, and that looks kind of like a Morpheus, or maybe like a very similar thing. But yeah, so yeah, here's the ASIC. You beat me. Your efficiency is just really good. So yeah, so air stage goes to you. And yeah, so that's the air stage done. I'm just really impressed with the efficiency of that ISO, or like that OS, because that's just a really, really good score. Like, that's such a good score. That is like really close. I think that's within 10 points of my water cooling score. So yeah, really good score. So air stage goes to ASIC. Water cooling stage. Well, once you look at me, not even in the top 3 anymore. Well, water stage goes to Colby Powers, who I think has been sitting in first place on the water stage from, I think, basically day one. I remember him being at the top of the ranking in water and Sub-Zero for a very, very long time. And this is probably partially due to his card just being really good. I actually managed to get slightly better memory than this on water, but I was nowhere near the core and shader clocks that this card is doing. And given that I'm only 10 points behind, that's probably just the difference. Like, this card is just better. It is a palette card, just like mine. But yeah, like, if I hadn't killed my first palette card, I might have possibly had a chance to beat this. But as it stands, I did end up killing my first palette card, and the second one I got, which has better memory than the first one, but it just has a pretty weak core. And while memory is pretty important on these, a bit more memory is not worth as much as quite a lot more core. So yeah, water stage goes to Colby Powers, who has been probably the longest standing first place in the entire competition. So yeah, you've defended your score really, really well, or more like you just got a score that's pretty much unbeatable, because you've been sitting in first place here for so long. And yeah, you just have an amazing card, because like, I think my first palette card got somewhat close to that, so with mods I might have managed to match that core, but my second one can't, and all the other cards I have don't get anywhere near that memory clock. So yeah, that's the water stage. And for the last one, now for this stage, Colby Powers actually got dethroned twice. He used to be first place, I used to be second, and well, in the last sort of 48 hours, this changed. So yeah, 2 people, Mr. Mouse, and I really don't want to mispronounce that, Max Speech 98, I think, just came in and just kind of, yeah, just kind of took the category. I actually haven't seen both of these scores yet. I know Colby Powers was on LN2. Mine's Face Cinch, of course. Let's see what these were. Yeah, that's LN2 with E-Power. And that one's also LN2 with a CPU port mounted to the card. That's looking... Is that a DIY port? Oh, wow. Yeah, that's some quite heavy modding there. Let's take a closer look. So let's first look at our winner. And yeah. Oh, that's interesting. That's actually a lower core clock and lower memory clock than what Colby Powers was running. I think this is a higher shader. Is shader that worth that much? Maybe this is also just like an OS efficiency thing again. I also have to note that technically you're supposed to also show the sensor tab, because these clock readouts are not always accurate, but I'm gonna let it slide. Like, technically this screenshot is, not completely valid, but like, I really don't wanna tell this person after the comp is over to go like, hey, yeah, you forgot to show this one tab. Yeah, I'm gonna let it slide, but you're supposed to have the sensor tab in this. But yeah, like, obviously on LN2, like my phase change just can't compete with LN2. Like, I was not even getting to 1 gigahertz, let alone almost 1.1. I was getting higher memory. I was not getting anywhere near that shader though. So yeah, really nice score. It's probably a bit of OS efficiency too, though I see it's like not completely optimized. It's still using like the not the completely basic graphical interface on the OS. So maybe this is just a really efficient OS so that you don't even need to use this, or maybe it just really is shader clock. But yeah, so this is an E-powered card. And here's an interesting tidbit. I was actually considering to maybe also E-power my own card, because because of some conversations that I've had on the HWBot Discord in the comp channel. And that was that some people who own oscilloscopes have measured their cards, and apparently there's some saturation going on in the VCore inductors, which leads to worse voltage regulation, even though the VRM is, perfectly capable of sending the current as like in the MOSFETs. It seems that the inductors are not completely happy with the amount of current that the card is pulling when it's heavily overvolted, and your voltage regulation might suffer because of that. Now, this is a card that, well, went the E-power route. Now, I remember in the early days, a lot of people just went straight to E-power because that's just what some people do. They just have lots of E-powers. Like, I mean, me included, I have several E-power boards self-made and 2 E-power 5s that just kind of are not sitting on anything right now. And I was considering to use one. In the end, decided against it because time was running out, and my card just had a really, really weak core that I don't think was going to improve with an E-power. But yeah, this is interesting. Like, it has an E-power. I wish we could have. I wish we could have had like another image, but when I get this one. But yeah, like, nice to see an E-power here. Which, like, it's cool to see this, because this means that people are like actually really, really well committed to the competition, and not just like, I'm gonna strap an L2 port on and see how it goes. No, this person like actually went and did an entire E-power mod for the card, which is cool. It's cool that we see stuff like this. So yeah, so could be that the E-power had just much better voltage regulation, but that doesn't really explain why this is a much better score with like technically worse clocks, except maybe shader. For the second one, that is of course also LN2, and wow, that's that's about the core clocks that I was getting on the phase change. That's a much better shader than I was getting though, and the memory is also better than my score. I did manage to get a pass at 1485 on my card too, but that only with core completely stock. As soon as I touched the core clocks, it would no longer pass at 1485. So yeah, this seems to have really good memory. But yeah, like the core clock, yeah, it seems like this also isn't the best card. It seems like shader just really scales well, like if you go really, really cold. Because like my shader, I had 3 cards Sub-Zero, not a single one did even 2 gigahertz, and this is like 2.2, the other one's 2.3. So that's interesting. Maybe that is a bunch of score. Well, it probably is. Just the extra much, much more shader. And yeah, like, it's an interesting setup. So this card is on a riser. It's not e-powered, and it has a CPU LN2 port on it, or more like it kind of looks like it's self-made. I'm not aware of any retail LN2 port that looks like this. And the entire card just drenched in Plastidip, which, yeah, like you can see here. And those are some really nice mods. Like, that's a lot of power bridges. I was thinking about potentially doing that too. I decided against it because I already saw that adding more capacitors didn't really help, and effectively a power bridge is just kind of, it kind of does the same as a cap mod, but just like less efficiently, is what I've heard. So I was like, if capacitors don't help, then a power bridge is not going to help either, so I ended up not doing it. But yeah, like that. So this is properly insulated. I actually did not insulate my cards. I just ran them without. It was fine. Like, I didn't have any sort of issues that would require insulation. But those are some really nice mods, especially the stuff behind the core. That's some really nice soldering right there. Like, I also stacked motor ceramics behind the core like this, but my soldering looked much worse. And I only used CAN-type capacitors behind the core and not these SMDs. I did use SMDs later, like you can look up my 260 modding video. But I had them not directly behind the core, I had them like around the core, like here, and then where these capacitors are. So slightly further away from the core, which means they're slightly less efficient. Also, they're CAN types, so again, slightly less efficient. And yeah, I didn't have any of the power bridges like that. And I also didn't insulate my card. So yeah, but this is some really nice modding right here. Like, yeah. It's nice to see people like really pulling out all the stops in this, because this is like what I like to see in competitions. Like, we have the air stage that's for like beginners who just like, hey, 260s are cheap. Let's just try and have a little bit fun with it. That's the air stage. Anyone who wants to go a little bit over the ball with, like, you know, a water cooling setup also has a stage for that, which is like for the slightly more advanced people who don't have Sub-Zero cooling capability, however. And then we have Sub-Zero for like just people who just want to pull all those stops. And it's cool to see this, like a card with this degree of modding, a card with an E-power. And yeah, looking really nice. So this might not have been first place, but these are some really nice mods, and this is also a really, really nice score. And yeah, really, it's really nice when people put info like this in a thing. Oh, it's dice. Oh no, it's a Debauer fusion. Oh, so it is a retail port. But only minus 65. That's not that much colder than my phase change. My phase change can do about minus 60 peak, but realistically more like minus 50-ish. So this is dice, because for LN2 that's pretty warm. That might explain the core clocks too, because if it's about the same temperature as my phase change, then, you know, could explain it. It still has much better shader and memory than I did at that temperature, though. Oh yeah, I can also see it right here. Yeah, so I suppose it's dice. Like, does it say that? No, it says LN2. Why does it say LN2? Is the temperature chip still on it? I can't see it. Because, like, if the temperature chip is gone, this should just do full port as far as I know. Bit interesting. Like, I mean, this one... Does this mention how cold it is? No. Yeah. Anyway. So... Yeah, Sub-Zero stage goes to Max Beach 98. I hope I pronounced that right. And yeah, with that, I think it's time to put an end to the video. So the GTX 260 challenge is over. It's been a lot of fun. I wish I could have done a bit more, like not having the like, I could have done that last video if I really wanted to, but, like, my good card died, and then the one I had, which was just kind of, like, underwhelming, because I did a lot of mods to it, and then it didn't really improve. Yeah. But, you know, other people still had fun in this. We still had a lot of people compete, like, this is about the same amount of people that compete in, like, cheap as, I think. So it's like, yeah, it seems to have been a popular competition, at least for the air stage. Water cooling, like, you know, not as well, but, like, you know, that not. Yeah, I mean, the water cooling stage is just kind of like a mid thing of just like, oh, you want to, like, really heavily mod your card, but you just can't do Sub-Zero kind of deal. And then Sub-Zero, well, we have even less people, but, like, you know, we still have nice amount of competition here. And yeah, like, I mean, by the beginning of this was just supposed to be like a back and forth between some friends, just like picked a certain card and just tried to do their best. You know, like, kind of like how RipGN was with the 2080 Ti's and later the 3090s. Just kind of that type of deal was planned. And then, you know, I made a video about it, talked about it, and people were like, hey, can I join in? Then that kept happening until it just became a thing on HWBot, because I was asked just like, hey, do you want this on HWBot? I was just, sure, why not? So, given that I never really expected to get this far, I'm really happy with the outcome of this. And yeah, so thanks again to everyone who competed in this. I hope you all had a lot of fun, and I hope I will see you again for whatever competition is next, be it cheap-ass chips or a CPU-centric competition, maybe. I've been thinking about doing something like that. Like, i5 2500Ks have gotten really cheap. Like, very, very cheap. And also 990FX is, like, just any AM3. I was also kind of, like, thinking about, you know, it shouldn't be that expensive to get a setup like that. I kind of want to mess with that. So yeah, I'd be up for something like that too, should it happen. And with that, I guess, yeah, thank you all for watching, and until next time, goodbye.